Okay, we're going to talk today about the sample mean and variance for grouped data. And this is the example we're going to talk about. It's the same one we talked about before. We're going to use the weight loss data, where weight loss, if you remember in that example, were between 5 and 29 pounds per first month. So we have the data already grouped. We worked on this before, where we had the boundaries 5 to 9, 9 to 13, 13 to 17, 17 to 21, 21 to 25, and 25 to 29. And we had the frequencies 3, 5, 7, 6, 3, 1. And remember, we graphed those and we talked about relative frequencies and so on. That's how we did the histograms. So today we're going to talk about, suppose you have this day, you lose your raw data, the original numbers of weight loss per patient, and you only have the classes and the frequencies. Can you calculate the sample mean and variance for this group data? This would be very important if you only keep a summary of the data and you lose your original data and you ask yourself, can I get the mean and variance and standard deviation? So here is how we do this. So we have the classes, we have the frequencies, and then we want the midpoint for each class. So we have the first class goes from 5 to 9, so the midpoint of that is 7, which is 5 plus 9 over 2. For this class, the midpoint is 11, which is 9 plus 13 over 2, and so on. So we get all midpoints. Remember, x is the midpoint, not the original raw data values we had before. Now we have the frequencies. What this means is, say, there are 3 measurements in this interval, but we're going to basically think of them as all falling at the midpoint. So if I multiply this times this, that gives me 21, which is the total of these measurements, or an estimate of that. Okay, so that's what XF is. So to multiply this column with this column, same thing here. So the midpoint is 11, and I have 5 measurements in this class, so that's 11 times 5, 55, and so on. 15 times 7, 105, 19 times 6, 114, 23 times 3, 69, 27, I have only 1 measurement, so that's 27. I sum all of these, that gives me 391, which is the sum of the cumulative sum, an estimate of that. I sum all frequencies, gives me 25, that's my sample size. So I have 25 measurements. I have 6 classes, keep that in mind. And then I want to multiply this column, square this column multiplied by this column. That's where I get x squared f. So 7 times 7 times 3 gives me 147. 11 squared times 5 gives me 605. 15 squared times 7 gives me this, and so on. Or I can, since I have xf, I can multiply this by this. That gives me x squared f. Another way of doing this. And then I get the x squared f. Now I can't use the original formulas for this. I have to use my group data formulas. Yeah. And these are the formulas for the mean and variance. Of course, I have the G to indicate group data. So x bar G, I sum all the measurements, divide by n. And for the sample variance, I get x squared f, sum all of these. I get the xf, sum all of them, squared, divide by n, and then divide by n minus 1. Where the summation is over the number of classes. Here's an exercise I'm going to do for you also. Use the group data formulas and the tabulated totals in the above table to calculate the sample mean, variance, and standard deviation of the group data. Now we have the results. It tells us here the raw data has a mean of 16, the group data 15.64. The original data had a sample variance of 29, and the grouped data has 28.9. So they come out close. Let's see how we do that. And so now I want to switch to showing you by hand how to do this. So I have x bar, take g is equal to, first you put the line, so that's x f divided by n, and if I substitute here, my xf totals are equal to 391. So I need to put there 391 and divide that by 25. So that's 391 divided by 25, which is the sample size, sum of the frequencies, and that would be equal to 15.64. So that's 15.64. Okay. Now for the sample variance, that's s squared, and there's just a g to indicate we're just dealing with sample variance. Again, put the line first, so we won't mess up the formula. And remember, the formula is sigma x squared f minus sigma x f square divided by n, and everything is divided by n minus 1, right? Now we're going to substitute those values, so I put an equal sign here, and I go, what's my sigma x squared f? That's from the last column, which is 6,800 is the total, 09, minus sigma xf is 391. I want that to be squared. I want to divide by 25, and everything should be divided by 25 minus 1, which is 24. Remember, you divide by n, not by k, so it's 25 minus 1, not 6. Okay. And now you have to, so you square this, divide by 25, subtract it from this quantity, divide by 24, and if you do that, there's going to be 28.9. Okay. And notice that how we just, once from the formula we get the sigma square f, which has the total there, just write it down basically. Now if I want the sample variance of the group data, it's simply taking the square root of s squared g, which is the square root of 28.9. So that would be what, 5 point something, I don't know, maybe 5.6. I'll let you finish this. Okay, so that's how we calculate the sample mean and sample variance for group data. And I think that's it for this talk, and thank you.